Welcome, KZOOMers. Gives me great joy to see all of my favorite people in the world here.
It's been 2 weeks for us. It's been 1 week since you've seen each other. Remember, our internet went out 10 minutes before showtime last week.
So it's all a test. So we come together to practice, to support each other, to transform the raw material of our lives into a kind of something that is refined to offer up. And so I want to look, that we are sent to our work by the text from the Song of Songs that is this week's Love at the Center, and it just happens to be very relevant to this moment. And so the text says, Hikuni fitzaoni, they beat me, they bruised me, nasu et redidi me'alai, they tore the shawl from my shoulders. Shomray, hachomot, the watchmen of the walls. And so I've been chanting this all week and feeling its connection to something that I've been kind of feeling in terms of taking in the suffering that's in the world, experiencing like what's happening in the news and the massacres that are going on, and this Supreme Court and the and what happened in Buffalo and what happened in Uvalde, all of that. What I realize is there is a kind of a groove. The place where I go is right to outrage, and that's kind of what I'm used to. It's like I hear about it, it hurts, and then I go to the place of outrage, and I had this feeling of like maybe there's another pathway. And I'm not saying the outrage is wrong, but I'm just saying maybe there is another pathway of seeing this world as our curriculum, our what we can learn from. And it felt like the curriculum that we are being given, yes, Raphael, you that's true. You got it.
Compassion.
Well, is that what this raw feeling inside me needs to be felt and then transformed, and what it gets transformed into through our spiritual work is strength, clarity, resilience, and compassion. That's what it felt like, is like where I'm being drawn. And that takes some work. But if we don't do the work, then we end up taking whatever that pain is in us, pushing it down or projecting it out into blame. And I was looking at some of the teachings of James Baldwin this week, and
civil rights leader.
Yeah, one of the things he said is, I imagine one of the reasons people cling to their hates so stubbornly is because they sense once hate is gone, they will be forced to deal with pain. So I just wanted to turn that around and say, what does it mean to deal with pain? And if you don't, what happens to it? If you don't deal with it, and what does it mean to deal with it? And so mostly, like we talk about these words, but they have a kind of a magic to them, and as we chant them. And I wanna take those words and feel them. So the idea is, when we feel bruised and beaten, we want to not feel bruised and beaten. And sometimes we'll do anything not to feel what we're feeling. And which includes a kind of a numbing or a projecting out or a blaming or an anger. It's like just because we don't want to feel what that feels like. But actually the only way is through, with support. And so that's why we come together, to support each other, to feel the feelings, and then and take them as the raw material that we can form and we can transform into that strength, that resilience, that clarity, that resolve, that compassion. And one of the most important teachings I've ever learned about how to cultivate compassion is is called the teaching of the high heart. So, and I guess I first learned this from Michael Silverdragon, right? Our healing teacher, that we learned. So the high heart is like another chakra that's hidden. It's like where da'at is in the tree of life, sort of between the throat and the heart. And the practice of the high heart is that when I'm feeling that tumult of pain and pulling inside my heart, what I need to do is raise that energy up into the high heart of compassion. It's called the high heart of compassion.
It's pure compassion.
And from there, I can send it out. And compassion is a quality that connects me to everyone. There's another teaching by James Baldwin that says, you think your pain and your heartbreak are unprecedented in the history of the world. But then you read, it was books that taught me the things that tormented me the most were the very things that connected me with all the people who were alive, who had ever been alive. So he transformed that pain into a connecting force. And that's what compassion is. And compassion is something that actually gives us energy. Because so if we are going to be activists in any way, we need to do it from compassion. And what I noticed in my outrage, just throw this. What I noticed in my outrage was that it was underneath the outrage was fear, and so it felt like anything that is sort of wrapped up or wrapping up that fear is not going to do good in the world, is what I believe. So let's do these words, and we say Hikuni fitzaoni nasu me'alai. And then when we say those words, shomray hachomot, which means the watchmen of the walls, but it also is a kind of invocation of awareness, of a higher perspective. So as you sing it, we're calling in this place of awareness so that we're not just lost in the pain. We are aware of it, from that higher place.
And I just want to say, speaking of being beaten and bruised, I just have come through COVID, and about a week and a half. But Tuesday I tested negative, and I'm just getting my voice back. So I'm not sure what it's going to sound like, but I know you'll be very accepting and forgiving.
So let's just go, let's go into the feeling here, and then call up that place of awareness. Hikuni fitzaoni nasu me'alai. Hikuni fitzaoni nasu me'alai. Shomray hachomot, shomray hachomot, shomray hachomot. Hikuni fitzaoni nasu me'alai. v'tzauni nasu et redidi me'alai Hikuni v'tzauni nasu et redidi me'alai shomray hachomot shomray hachomot shomray hachomot Hikuni v'tzauni nasu et redidi me'alai Hikuni v'tzauni nasu et redidi me'alai shomray hachomot shomray hachomot shomray hachomot Hikuni v'tzauni nasu et redidi me'alai Hikuni v'tzauni nasu et redidi me'alai shomray hachomot shomray hachomot shomray hachomot Hikuni v'tzauni nasu et redidi me'alai Hikuni v'tzauni nasu et redidi me'alai shomray hachomot shomray hachomot shomray hachomot. So inhabiting that place of awareness again. Shomray hachomot shomray hachomot shomray hachomot shomray hachomot shomray hachomot shomray hachomot. So close your eyes and just become aware of the pain that you're holding. Surround it first with awareness. And let the awareness then become compassion. And whatever it is that's sort of that deep pain of the brokenness of the world that we take in. Allow that place of brokenness to connect you through compassion to the whole world. So I realized that what keeps me from doing this work of transforming the suffering both inside me and what I receive in the world really is fear. I get afraid. I get startled. I get afraid. And our deepest fears control us, limit us, and make us feel disconnected from ourselves and each other. And yet, this remembering that there's a fearlessness that is in us, that's our true nature, and our job is to awaken that fearlessness through a practice. And I notice that when stuff happens in the world, there's like a place that shock place, that sort of is paralyzing, and it really is a force that it's disconnecting us, and it's disconnecting us from that place of fearlessness. And so our spiritual practice needs to be a reconnection to that place. So I wanted to do this practice that's called Trust in You. And it says Yom Ira. Yom Ira. Yom Ira is it means in the day that I fear, but it means like to say in the very moment that fear takes hold of me, here's my strategy. I'm going to give this to God. I'm going to open up to this great mystery that is holding me. I'm going to surrender that constricted place immediately. And so in the very moment that I fear, I will put my trust. And you could say easier said than done, but it's a practice, and it's a kind of a commitment that we make, because when we become aware of that tinge of fear that is sort of driving us, we know that it doesn't have a good end, and so it needs that transformation. And I heard this interview on NPR with this pastor from Uvalde, who was
Southern Baptist guy.
Yeah,
Southern Baptist
I guess
preacher.
he was evangelical. He was evangelical. And he had and he was the embodiment of humility and compassion. Like that he was in the midst of it, and where it was sending him was to God. And it was just so beautiful to me, so inspiring. So unusual, that his training in him was to go to bring whatever pain he was feeling to God. Yeah, I see. Sai, you're nodding your head. Yeah, you know about that. So I want to do that for this practice. And maybe you can even feel like a memory of that moment of fear, of hearing something awful and having that moment of fear. But imagine it just in that very moment, surrendering, being humbled, opening to this larger mystery. Yom Ira, 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 Ani aylecha, evtach, Ani aylecha, evtach, Ani aylecha, evtach, Ani aylecha, evtach. Ani elecha evtach. Ani elecha evtach. Ani elecha Yom Ira, 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 Yom Ira. Ani elecha evtach. Ani elecha evtach. Ani elecha evtach. Ani Ani elecha evtach. Ani elecha evtach. Ani elecha evtach. Ani Ani elecha evtach. Ani elecha evtach. Ani elecha evtach. Ani Yom So imagine a different pathway of what we do with our pain, or what we do with the pain of the world when it comes to us, when our hearts are broken, and to be able to find to release our fear in that very moment, and find our compassion and find our connection. And you know how some people know that I sometimes talk about changing the fuel tank. It's like there's a fuel tank of anxiety.
We know that one.
And then there's a fuel tank of love, or of joy. And the idea is that as we do what we need to do in this world to make it, to bring justice, to bring kindness, to bring to the world. Do we want to do it from the fuel tank of fear, which I think sometimes is where that outrage is sort of fueled by, or is there another fuel tank that we can plug into? And the switching of fuel tanks is not an easy thing, because we're so kind of, we have a groove, we have a habit, and when we're startled, we go to that place of that fear before just so fast, and then for me, sometimes it's a couple days later. I was like, oh, maybe I didn't need to go exactly to that place, because in the end, it's actually not going to empower me in a way that I want to be empowered. So, first I just imagine a different way of responding in a different way to the world, and then I find my way there, and I say, well, what do I need in order to, because we have like a backlog of brokenheartedness in us that we need to do the work of healing that, and otherwise it's just going to keep getting triggered by everything out there. So we do this work inside us, so that we are dismantling our triggers. We're clearing the blockages in our hearts, so that the clear flow of the divine can pour through us and not get caught in our own places of constriction, really.
Yeah.
So I thought of this practice that's called Sowing Our Tears, and it really is, describing this possibility of transformation. And that says HaZorim, those who sow in tears. It means that those tears are like seeds. They're powerful, they're rich, they're precious. They're nothing to be ashamed of. But they also need to find fertile ground. And when that fertile ground is given to the seeds, we reap in joyous song. We become more alive because of those tears, because that place of feeling in us. And so you've heard me maybe tell this story before, but I used to cry when I was young. I cried all the time, and people would talk about like they felt better after a good cry. I never felt better. I always felt worse after crying, and I couldn't understand why anybody said that until I met my beloved Rachmel, and I
was a counselor.
So when I would cry, and when I first met him, he would say, good. "Yeah, good.
I want all your tears.
Go for it. Go." And somehow he managed to take all the shame out of the tear, the shame and the fear out of the tears, and he provided a kind of a fertile ground for those tears.
I'm so glad I could do that for you.
And so, and I realized, and then it was a whole different experience crying when someone was holding the space or providing the fertile ground for those tears. And when it says, it will reap in joyous song, what I think about that is like that the reward of feeling my feelings in that place of holding is more aliveness, and that's the joyous song that will come from feeling those feelings. So I want us to do this for each other. Like this community, this KZOOM community, is the fertile ground that we can feel what we're feeling, and receive it. And I also want to say that I'm so grateful to the practice of chanting, because chanting allows me to move those feelings. They don't get sort of stuck in me. They're through the chant, I could sort of be feeling really deeply kind of pained, and then I begin to chant, and that pain begins to move in me, and it begins to be expressed, and it's and it becomes something not only terrible but also beautiful. It kind of represents like what it means to be human and to be vulnerable, and that's how I think the transformation happens from our suffering into our strength, clarity, resilience, compassion. So I'll have you just connect up with that again, that place where the tears come from in you. And we will plant them with each other. HaZorim Once more, but this time open your eyes and look at one of the people who are here and sort of see where their tears might be and see if you can create the fertile ground for their tears. Close your eyes and imagine that all of your tears are planted in fertile ground. Precious seeds that come to fruition as your aliveness. So, thank you. I want to do one more practice, and it's a practice that's kind of like an invocation, and it says, "Oh, healer to the brokenhearted, you bind up our wounds." And it kind of is giving us a clue, a secret of how this healing happens in us and in the world. And it speaks to this quality of holding. It's like, in a way, that healing force is always moving in the world. But when we're not held, when there isn't that holding, it's really hard for that healing force to work. And
the wisdom of our body, which is if we break a bone, our body will splint around it, will clamp around the break and hold it.
Hold it.
That's exactly what we're talking about. How God holds
holding.
us.
And so I was, as I was preparing for this class, I was remembering at different times in my life when I felt really broken. And I noticed that there were certain people I wanted to be around and other people I didn't want to be around. and it had to do with the quality of their holding. And, it's at the most painful times, there were certain people who, when I was in their presence, I felt held. And it was a holding that was spacious enough for me to move through all of my feelings. It wasn't often when we're feeling bad, there's somebody who wants us to feel different, who wants us to feel, because they love us, they want us to feel better. But actually what we need is to be held.
Right where we are.
Yeah, to be held with the confidence that there's something unfolding, grace unfolding through us. So I want to just take a moment to reflect on both, times that you have been held, and also what is the quality of your holding of others and holding of the suffering of the world. How do we refine that quality of holding so that we can be there for the suffering that's in the world with a kind of I think it takes a kind of a faith in the process, that the healing is happening. And we need to be there to, as messengers of the divine, to hold, so that process can happen. So I want to practice. So and then I realized there were times in my life when I didn't know how to be held. So that's another skill set. Let's say, there's a way of holding. But can I let myself be held?
Yeah.
Because if I can't surrender into that embrace or that sense of being held, then I'm going to stay tense. I'm going to close up, and the healing energy can't flow in me. So what that holding does, it allows me to relax and open and allow healing to happen in its time, not on my timing, in God's timing. So I want to chant this chant, and then I really want to encourage anybody that can stay for 10 minutes to check in with each other. I know a lot of people just check out as soon as they. As soon as
need
it's,
to go.
No, Rachmela.
They have an appointment or something.
I know, but I'm making an encouragement that it's important for 10 minutes, if it's possible for you to stay and to check in and to practice not fixing each other, but really whoever's speaking, to practice that quality of how do you hold them, and so that each of us can express what it is that's been difficult and feel what it means to be held. So we'll do this practice, and then we'll see if we'll take those 10 minutes, and then I'll come back and check in again. So. Harofay Lish'vuray Lev. ומכבש לעצבותיו. הרופא לשבורי לב, הרופא לשבורי לב, ומכבש לעצבותם, ומכבש לעצבותם. הרופא לשבורי לב, הרופא לשבורי לב, ומכבש לעצבותם, ומכבש לעצבותם. הרופא לשבורי לב, הרופא לשבורי לב, ומכבש לעצבותם, ומכבש לעצבותם. הרופא לשבורי לב, הרופא לשבורי לב, ומכבש לעצבותם, ומכבש לעצבותם. הרופא לשבורי לב, הרופא לשבורי לב, ומכבש לעצבותם, ומכבש לעצבותם. הרופא לשבורי לב, הרופא לשבורי לב, ומכבש לעצבותם, ומכבש לעצבותם. הרופא לשבורי לב, הרופא לשבורי לב, ומכבש לעצבותם, ומכבש לעצבותם. Once more. הרופא לשבורי לב, לעצבותם, ומכבש לעצבותם. So take a moment to tune into your own heart, to really breathe into the heart and feel yourself held, and allow that kind of a relaxing opening to that sense of being held, leaning against it. Trusting in the process.